Welcome to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman, the podcast dedicated to helping you build the business of your dreams and live the life you always hoped for, with valuable and fun tips and info to make your life easier and more fun. And now, here's your host, a man who sprinkles metal shavings on his breakfast cereal just for fun, Jason Silverman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. I'm your host, Jason Silverman, and I am thrilled to share some time with you once again today. As you know, I'm always on the hunt for interesting as well as super smart real deal guests, and I got to tell you, today's show is a winner. I want to introduce my listeners to somebody who's truly been there and done that, and I'm excited to pick his brain for your benefit today. And as most of you know, I only bring folks aboard who I feel like I can absolutely learn something from, so I will be taking as many, if not more, notes than you are today. So for the folks who I work with in any of my coaching programs or through Powerful Words Character Development, All-Star Cheer sites, or the Jason's Army Mastermind Group, you know how much I focus on mental strength, right? Well, this show is going to help us to develop just that. So today it's going to be my honor and privilege to share an amazing resource with you. You're going to love today's guest. He's got a ton of valuable info about what I consider to be a super hot and super important topic, as well as a fun way to deliver it. So strap yourself in. Today's show is going to be a blast. As I'm sure you already know, I'm committed to helping business owners just like you to become more successful, enjoy your career more, and in general, make your life significantly more fun. We only get one ride on this merry-go-round, and we want to make sure it's one hell of a ride, right? Alrighty, boys and girls, it is now that time. I want you to stop surfing Facebook, put away your phone, your tablet, your dog, your cat, your spouse, your significant other, anything that might possibly distract you from today's show. You're about to get some great and immediately implementable information, and I don't want you to miss a second of it. So, before we officially get going, let me give you a little bit of background about our special guest today. Matt Fitzgerald is an acclaimed endurance sports coach, nutritionist, and author. His many books include Racing Weight, 80-20 Running, and How Bad Do You Want It? Matt's writing also appears regularly in magazines and on websites such as Women's Running and Competitor.com. Since 2001, his training plans have helped thousands of athletes of all experience and ability levels achieve their goals, and he currently serves as a coach for BSX Athletics and Team Iron Cowboy. Certified by the International Society of Sports Nutrition, Matt has consulted for numerous sports nutrition companies, and he's the creator of the Diet Quality Score, DQS, smartphone app. A lifelong athlete, he speaks frequently at events throughout the United States and internationally. Matt, welcome to The Real Deal. I'm thrilled to have you here today.
Thrilled to be with you.
Awesome. So before we get started, for those who haven't yet had the opportunity and pleasure of meeting you or hearing you speak or reading your books yet, take a second, share your story with our listeners. What are you passionate about? What makes you tick? Who is Matt Fitzgerald?
Matt Fitzgerald is very much a chip off his old man's block. So growing up, when I was growing up in New Hampshire, my father ran marathons. So I just thought we're going back to the mid 80s now. And so I just thought that was a normal thing to do. And my father being my father, I looked up to him and wanted to emulate him. And my father's also a writer. And I developed a passion for writing at a very early age too. But I've kind of been on one track, my whole life. Didn't necessarily anticipate putting my passion for endurance sports together with my love of writing, but that's how it worked out. So for more than 20 years now, I've been writing about endurance sports and also coaching and helping athletes with their nutrition as well.
That's fabulous. So running, what other athletics have you been involved in?
Yeah, so as a kid, I did the whole grab bag, but anything with a ball was a non-starter for me. I just didn't have the coordination, but I never got tired, So I actually I blew out a knee when I was 14 playing soccer, and that was really a blessing in disguise because from that point on, I was kind of channeled into the running. And as an adult, I branched out from that into other endurance disciplines, triathlon, cycling, mountain biking. But it's all that painful, long endurance stuff that's my bailiwick.
I love it. So what inspired you to write this book?
Well, all along, ever since I ran my first 1 mile race as a fifth grader at field day at Oyster River Elementary School, it was obvious to me that although, like all sports, long distance running is highly physical, to me the essence of success was meeting and mastering the mental challenge. Anyone who's ever run a mile or done anything like that, had run bleachers at football practice or whatever, that it's painful. You don't want to be doing it, and yet you have to see it through. Otherwise, you're a quitter. So it's like, how do you master that challenge? And of course, there are various levels of mastery. You can sort of everything from quitting to really being sort of the mentally fittest athlete on the starting line, and that has been endlessly fascinating to me. So I've tried to learn from scientists, from other athletes, from my own experience, how to develop the mental fitness that's required to excel in endurance sports.
It makes a lot of sense. So, your book features an unusual mix of science and storytelling. What made you choose that approach versus just making it a science textbook, so to speak?
Right. Yeah, so really sort of the occasion, to get back to your previous question, the occasion for writing this book was the emergence of this new model called the psychobiological model of endurance performance. And it's a mouthful, but it's a pretty simple concept. The model's based on the idea that although athletes have physical limits, obviously, we never actually encounter those limits in training or competition, because before we get to that point, we encounter a psychological limit first. So what happens is we always sort of tap out our tolerance for suffering before our physical capacity is fully tapped out. And there's a lot of athletes who think of themselves as mentally tough. They don't want to believe that's true, but there's some pretty good research demonstrating that it really is true. So it's a powerful sort of game-changing new perspective on limitations and performance in endurance sports. But it is, it's brain science. And I didn't want to make readers' eyes glaze over in the effort to explain this science and its practical implications. So I chose sort of a narrative-based approach where in the dozen chapters of the book, in each one, I talk about a real-world example of a great athlete who encountered some sort of major setback or mental challenge and had to overcome it. And in the process of telling that story and how the athlete, got over that obstacle, it's sort of like, sneaking spinach into a casserole that to get your kids to eat it, not realizing they're eating vegetables. So kind of a Trojan horse where the science is woven in there. So you learn the science, but even if you failed chemistry in high school, you can still understand it.
That makes a lot of sense. What have you found in your experience? Because I'm just digging back to my own history here, and I'm curious how far it relates. So, in your experience, what would you say are probably the top two mental blocks, I guess, that athletes face?
Yeah. So, one of them is the common choking effect. And it's interesting. In my research for this book, I tried to learn what the official psychological term for choking is, and it's in fact choking. That's what they call it too. And choking, interestingly enough, you think of it as being underperformance caused by perceived pressure, and that's true enough. But actually, the mechanism is hyper self-consciousness. So when you get into a situation where you feel the need to perform and you feel the pressure of that obligation, what it does is it causes you to pay too much attention to what's going on inside your body, what's going on inside your head, and things that you normally are able to do automatically, you have to labor over, and that's what actually causes you to underperform. So the way to overcome choking is to learn to turn your attention back outward, away from yourself, and onto the task at hand. So, the opposite of choking is that flow state where you sort of become the thing that you're doing, and your self-awareness kind of disappears, and you're just completely immersed in your activity and whatever goal-directed pursuit you're undertaking. So that's one.
I love that. That's
Yep.
I mean, and obviously everybody, whether you're looking at this purely from an athlete's perspective or even as a business owner, we've all faced that choking time in our careers. So I think getting through that and actually making it not about yourself is brilliant. I love that.
Yep.
What would you say is the next one that you see a lot of folks dealing with?
Yeah, another one. It's similar but different. So it's sort of anxiety. So choking occurs in the moment, and of course anxiety occurs before you enter that situation where you have to perform. Anxiety can set you up for failure. So you sort of failed before you've even gotten out of the gate. And a great way to overcome that, what a lot of athletes try to do is when they know they're going to face a big challenge, there's sort of two sort of mindsets you can use to approach a big challenge that's ahead of you. One is sort of like denial, where you're going to the dentist for a root canal and you've had one before and it was painful, but you tell yourself, I sure hope this doesn't hurt. That's actually and there's research showing this, that you'll actually perceive more pain if you try to tell yourself that it's not going to hurt when you really know that it's going to. Whereas the opposite mindset, which works a lot better, is one of acceptance, where you just go ahead and say, you know what, I know this is going to hurt because I've been there before, but I accept it. I'm up to the challenge and I'll get through it. So that works with pain tolerance. It works in terms of what's called perceived effort, which is really why running a mile is unpleasant. The essence of it is this perception of effort. And if you go into a race saying, this race could be the hardest race of my life, it sounds a lot like pessimism, but it's not, because you're saying, I can achieve my goal, I know I'm ready, but it's going to be a dogfight, and I'm prepared for that. So I call this mental coping skill bracing yourself, where you don't try to fool yourself that it's going to be a cakewalk. You go ahead and accept this is going to be hard, but I'm ready for it, and I embrace the challenge ahead of me.
Wow, I didn't realize the whole perception of what anxiety would actually do to it. But that's it does make a lot of sense. So, how is the psychology, from your perspective, of endurance sports different from that of any other sports?
In endurance sports, it is really all about perception of effort. It's just, in a sense, it's almost like just being, running a marathon is a bit like just sitting on a radiator that starts off cool and is gradually warmed and gets hotter and hotter, and sort of the last person to jump off is the winner. There's really almost nothing going on, and that's why these sports aren't really popular spectator sports, because there's nothing really happening. It's just and when you participate, it's just you alone with your suffering, and how much can you take? Whereas in other sports, there's just a lot more variety of stimulus. Like take basketball, you've got the ball, you've got your teammates, you've got your opponents, multiple positions, strategies, called plays, set plays, all that stuff. There's just a lot more going on. Most other sports, frankly, are a lot more fun. So, endurance sports tend to be an acquired taste, but that's sort of what I like about them. It's just the purity of the challenge. And that's why, I think the mental side is important in every sport, but there's probably no other type of sport in which it's more important.
Do you consider and this is kind of off topic slightly, do you consider all the new, the mud runs, the Spartan races, would those fall under the endurance sport moniker?
Yeah, they definitely do. Again, I see why you asked that question, because they do have a little bit more variety in them. But still, if you do any of those races, perception of effort is your enemy. If you get halfway, 3/4 of the way through one of those races, you're sucking wind, your legs are burning, you want it to be over with. So even though you've got distractions like obstacles and mud, and even in some of them you do have teammates, still, in order to have success in those types of events, you still have to have a strong mental game and a very high tolerance for perception of effort.
That makes sense. So tell me this, for anybody who's a non-athlete, and I'm sure there are some listening to this podcast today, what lessons can they glean from reading your book?
There's that expression, life is a marathon. Everyone's heard it. And, usually people say that when they mean to say, life is long. But life is a marathon in another sense, too, where you kind of have to pace yourself. You can't really achieve most important goals in life tomorrow or right away. Endurance sports are all about, deferred gratification, where, it's all misery, because some people wonder, why do you even do it? Are you masochists? But we're not masochists. There's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. When you get 20 miles into a marathon and you want so badly to quit, and you don't, and you make it to the finish line, you walk away with something you've earned that you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. Just a self-respect that you can't really get in any other way. And life is very much like that as well. If you've always got to have it now, you're not going to achieve a lot of success, in business, relationships, or whatever. So just the ability to know, what you really want, what the best you really wants most, and be able to just, break the progress, break the journey down into bite-sized chunks, and take one step forward every day. And never miss a day. And when you get knocked down, get back up. Patience, determination, resilience, all those things apply both inside and outside of endurance sports.
Great answer. I love that. So it is time for our resource of the week. So tell me this: how can my listeners find out more about you? Where can they grab your book? And really, how can they plug into you?
Yeah, so the hub for all things Matt Fitzgerald is my website, which is mattfitzgerald.org. You can find out more about this book, the one we've been talking about, other books, and various other things I'm up to.
Fabulous. So www.mattfitzgerald.org.
That's it.
Fabulous. And, obviously we're talking about how bad do you want it, right? The psychology of mind over muscle.
That's it.
Yeah, folks, go ahead and grab that. And obviously the new mobile app and everything is out there. So head on over to mattfitzgerald.org and check it out. There's a ton of great resources up there waiting for you. All right. So, Matt, I always like to end my podcast with, what I consider to be an important and telling question. So if you could give my listeners just one solid piece of advice to either help their business or help them live a better life, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say, do it your way. There's sort of a formula for success that does apply to everyone, but everyone's also in a unique situation. They have a unique combination of strengths and weaknesses. In my book, I talk about examples of athletes who had the quote-unquote wrong body for their sport, but still managed to succeed anyway, often by developing kind of a unique technique. And that's another one that really applies in the business world as well. Don't be paralyzed with fear if you look at your competition and say, well, they've got this and I don't. You still have a recipe that you can use to achieve success in business. So give yourself permission to do it your way and kind of carve out your own trail to success.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Matt, thank you so much for joining me today. I know how crazy your schedule is, so it means the world to me that you'd actually take some of your time and share some of your wisdom with me and my listeners.
Really enjoyed it, Jason.
Folks, that is all the time we've got today. Thanks so much for tuning into The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. For more info about private coaching or to see if you'd benefit from one of my mastermind groups, visit me over at www.jasonmsilverman.com. I look forward to helping you achieve the success that you truly deserve. Until next time, let me leave you with this. Get out there and be the real deal. Set a goal, make a plan, work like hell towards it, and achieve the success that's waiting for you. Now's the time. Get out there and make it happen. This has been Jason Silverman, and I hope you have a spectacular week.
You've been listening to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. To access the great resources mentioned in the show and for information on coaching and mastermind group opportunities with Jason, please visit jasonmsilverman.com.